You've really been beating the drum
Right.
on municipal pension
Right.
reform. Oh, pension reform. Why? Why is that a big issue for you?
We audit every municipal pension plan in the state, and as I began as Auditor General, we would, during every audit, you would see unfunded liability after unfunded liability, and no one had ever added it all up. And what we've now realized is that there's close to an $8 billion unfunded municipal pension liability in the state. So the reason why the state pensions would just get more attention is because they were viewed as just a bigger fund, which they obviously are. But from the municipal side, if you combine all of them, that's what we get to. And so obviously it's a huge challenge, and probably what's even more of a unique challenge for the municipal pension is there's some cities and towns that are actually doing pretty good, but some that are in desperate shape. So finding a way to fix this in a way that meets all the needs is really a unique challenge.
Well, it is, and the implications of these municipalities carrying that
Right.
kind of an obligation.
Right.
What does it really boil down to?
Well, the number one job in Pennsylvania government for local government, so the way the Pennsylvania governmental structure works, number one job of local government is public safety. So most of these municipal pensions deal with public safety personnel. So, if you're dealing with a situation with trying to make sure that your cops and firefighters and non-uniform personnel have a stable retirement, but at the same token, the city's handling a debt load or maybe a benefit structure that maybe they made promises they couldn't have kept, or they maybe didn't put enough money aside, you're going to be running up against this idea of how do we fund the pensions at the same time making sure we have enough cops and firefighters for the job.
And it sounds like some municipalities are already making tough choices across the country.
We've certainly seen the hiring slowing down, if not come to a halt in many cities, on hiring additional cops and firefighters. So that's obviously troublesome. What we're really concerned about in the long term is if there isn't a fix that, and I know there's some ideas being debated in Harrisburg, we've put some ideas on the table, but if there isn't a fix that actually helps cities and make sure that there's a stable retirement at the same time that the cops and firefighters can buy into, if there isn't a long-term fix that's put on the table, I'm concerned about long-term public safety in cities. Either that or there's going to be property tax increases just to pay for this, and I don't think anybody wants either option. I think they want to have obviously stable property tax rates, at the same time they want to have enough cops and firefighters to do the job.
You would think, given the fragmentation of the system and all these little plans, the inefficiencies here have to be unbelievable.
The number one thing we recommend is for any plan that, and we come up with a threshold of between 70 and 80% is what we really think the number should be. About 75% of an unfunded liability, but we realize that's up for debate. But there's one thing that's beyond question, that is more plans need to be administered centrally. That doesn't mean you consolidate the plans, but you administer them centrally. We have a Pennsylvania municipal retirement system. Almost all of the plans that are in there, even the city of Harrisburg, 2 of their pension plans are in that system. With all of their financial troubles, because they've been in this Pennsylvania municipal retirement system for about 20 years now, both those pensions for Harrisburg are over 100% funded because they follow a long-term conservative practice where you're putting enough money in, you're having a conservative rate of return, and the benefits don't change.
So where do you think we are in terms of finally getting movement in Pennsylvania on this issue?
The one thing I do think that, my department, what we've done by raising this issue is nobody can bury their head in the sand and say this isn't a problem anymore. So there's broad recognition among both parties that this is an issue. And obviously the mayors and the chambers have been, in a sense, campaigning all over the state for some type of solution. I know there's a bill that's being advocated by the League and the Sustainable Communities organization, and so that's one idea that's out there. There's other ideas that are floating out there. The governor asked me to chair a task force. We've put some ideas on the table. The only thing I continue to stress is every day that there isn't a solution, the cost of fixing it gets more expensive.
Okay, and so there is a sense of urgency.
That's right.
Kicking the can is not going to work for us forever.
Look, it's going to get addressed one way or another. I'd rather see it being addressed comprehensively, where everyone having sort of a stake in the solution, as opposed to nobody does anything, and then a city somewhere in Pennsylvania is going to be left with the decision of, do we raise taxes or do we just not hire more cops and firefighters? Let's avoid that scenario by fixing this comprehensively.